Hey, what's up YouTube? Christine with Gauge Girl Training, an online meal planning and coaching service. It is Vlogmas Day 12 and today I'm doing a macros tutorial on how to calculate your macros for lean muscle gain. So let's get started. So with the holidays, a lot of people unintentionally gain weight throughout this time of year. However, there are some of you who actually want to gain weight. You want to gain lean muscle mass and you want to know the best way to calculate your macros to do that. Follow me through this tutorial as I'm going to walk you through an example of how to do that for a female looking to gain lean muscle mass. So let's get started. So the first thing when it comes to gaining muscle mass, there are two main approaches. Approach number one is the eat everything approach. The eat everything approach where you don't calculate your macros, you just make sure you're eating a lot more food. That works. And that approach is good for gaining muscle and gaining strength. However, this approach will bring with it a significantly higher amount of body fat along with that. So it can yield excellent gains. However, your fat to muscle ratio could be anywhere from 2 to 1 or even 4 to 1. So that's probably not the way most of you are going to want to go. A lot of you are probably going to want to take a lean muscle gain approach. And by taking the lean gaining approach, this means that you could probably be essentially quote unquote bulking for anywhere from 12 months, even up to 24 months. And you will gain muscle without significantly gaining any body fat. You will still feel relatively lean. You will make slight improvements in strength and performance. However, the changes in your physique are going to be much more notable as you're adding more muscle. So the first thing we want to do is I'm going to walk you guys through an example. Okay, so we have a female, 24 years old, at 5'7". Her current weight is 115 pounds. Her goal weight is she wants to get up to 130 pounds. Her occupation, she is a teacher and she works out 3 to 4 times a week. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to calculate her BMR. So I'm going to write out the BMR equation and plug in her height, weight, and age. Her weight is going to be in kilograms, the height is going to be in centimeters, and the age is going to be in years. So as I go through, I'm actually going to plug her weight in here and her height, which I'm going to already going to convert it into centimeters and kilograms as I write out the equation. Alright, so what this means here is that this female, 24 years old, 5'7", she weighs 115 pounds. Her BMR is at 1304.225 kilocalories. That, again, your BMR tells you how many calories your body needs to sustain its energy and bodily functions at rest, assuming you are doing zero movement. You need to know this as the baseline criteria to multiply your activity on top of. So let's do that next. So the next thing you need to know is your total daily energy expenditure, or your TDEE. Your activity factor times your BMR. Now your BMR, we already know that from up here, so we'll plug that in here. What is your activity factor? Your activity factor is a factor between 1 and 2 that tells you approximately how many calories you're burning a day. I did a video before explaining what all the levels were. So this person is working out 3 to 4 times a week. She's a teacher. The activity factor that we are going to use in this scenario is 1.5. If you have questions on how I select that activity factor, go in the link below on the description box and watch the previous video where I explain activity factors and what they mean. So in this case, that means we are going to take 1304.225 times 1.5, and that's going to give us our TDEE. Again, that is your total daily energy expenditure. All right, so now we have our TDEE, again, total daily energy expenditure. Very simple concept. All it is your BMR, which is how many calories you're burning at rest, times your activity. So now that we know this number, which in our case, for this example female, is 1936.34 calories. So she needs 1936 calories a day to maintain her body and give her enough calories to have enough energy to do the activity that she's doing. Great. Now, one thing that I just wanted to dial in here is a finer point that a lot of people ask me, and it goes over a lot of people's heads, but I'm going to explain it here real quick. If you ever want to check if your activity calories are right, what I mean by that is some people ask, well, if I burn more or less calories a day, do I subtract that from my macros? You do not, but this is what you do. So knowing your total daily energy expenditure, it's 1936 calories a day, right? If you take this 1936 and subtract your BMR. So if you take your TDEE minus your BMR, this will tell you your activity calories. Now, some of you may need to watch this a few times for this to make sense, but bear with me, it makes a lot of sense. So what this means is we have our 1956.34 minus 1304.225, which gives us 652.12 kilocalories. So what does that mean? This number right here, what does this mean? This is the way TDEE minus BMR equals your activity calories. Does that make sense, you guys? This is the way you make sure it makes sense. So what we are saying in this scenario is that if you are burning 652 calories a day, that is like the good mental check. That's, okay, am I actually burning that many calories in a day? If you are burning more than that, you would want to accommodate for it in giving yourself a higher activity factor. If you are burning less, give yourself a lower activity factor. But this is the gut check point where you're like, does that make sense? Yes or no? Now that we have this number, again, you don't need that to calculate your macros. I just like to give that to people so you could understand a little bit deeper. So we have our 1956. This is our total daily energy expenditure. Let's focus on this number right now. So now that we know our total daily energy expenditure, we are going to apply a caloric surplus. Why are we applying a caloric surplus? Because we are trying to gain weight. We are trying to gain lean muscle mass. You cannot gain muscle if you do not eat more. I'm going to repeat this. You cannot gain lean muscle mass if you do not eat more. So for those of you who are trying to starve and you want to get bigger muscles, it is not going to happen. You may be able to reveal more muscle definition, but your muscles will not get bigger unless you eat more. All right, so the next step to figure out what our recommended calories are is we're going to take our TDEE, again, which is our total daily energy expenditure, and we're going to add it to a caloric surplus. The question is, how much of a caloric surplus should we apply? Good question. Now, with the eat anything mode, obviously, you could be eating excess of, oh my gosh, 500 calories a day, 1,000 calories a day, 2,000, 3,000. It depends on who you are and what you like to eat and where you're eating. However, for lean muscle gains, I recommend for a lean female trying to gain a little bit of muscle, I recommend a caloric surplus of 300 calories. My recommendation for a male is slightly different, but we're focusing on women in this video. So men, you'll have to wait for another video. So for ladies, I recommend that you guys have a caloric surplus of 300 kilocalories. So total calories for weight gain is the TDEE plus the caloric surplus. So in our case, that number was 1956 plus 300. So that means this woman is going to need to eat 2256 calories in order to gain lean muscle mass, at a caloric surplus of 300 calories a day. So let's calculate protein first. So for protein, since we want to gain lean muscle, I'm giving us a factor of 1.2. 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. And I'm using the goal weight in the scenario. So in the beginning, I told you guys this girl is 115 pounds. She wants to be 130 pounds. So I'm going to multiply the 1.2 per pound body weight times our goal body weight. That gives me 156 grams of protein. Calories wise, 624 calories. Again, I get the calories by multiplying the protein times 4. Protein times 4 is how you get this. Now, let us calculate the fat. Alright, so our last video clip, the SD card was full. I had to delete a bunch of stuff, so I have to repeat myself, so bear with me, gang. So where we were was we were figuring out our macros. We know how many calories that we need. This gal needs 2256 calories a day to gain lean muscle mass. Now, in order to calculate her macros, these are the rules I've used. Protein multiplied by 1.2 grams of protein per pound of the body weight she wants to be at. For fat, I did 0.55 of the fat times the weight she wants to be at. If you want to know more about where I got these numbers from and how I came about this logic, watch my video on how to build a fat loss meal plan. Now, even though it's a fat loss meal plan, I still gave ranges for where you need to be, and it explains it in more detail. Link below, watch that video if you want to know more of the fine-tuning information. And then for carbs, once you get that value, you subtract your total calories, the 2256, minus the calories from the protein. So we know that the calories from the protein is 624. We get 624 from the 1.2 times 130 pounds. That's 156 grams of protein. 156 times 4 is 624. We have that. Bring it here. Now, minus the fat. Fat is 0.55 grams of fat times 130, 71.5 grams of fat. 71.5 times 9 gives us 643.5 calories. Bring it right here. So our carbs in calories are going to be 2256 minus 624, which is calories from protein, minus 643 calories from fat, giving us 988.84. That's how many calories we have. Now we know that carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram, so we're going to divide that by 4, giving us 247.21 grams of carbs, giving us the final macros for this gal of 156 grams of protein, 71.5 grams of fat, and 247.21 grams of carbs. This is what a 24-year-old female, 5'7", 115 pounds would need to eat a day to go from 115 to 130 pounds. If there are any questions on this video, please let me know. Comment below. I'd be happy to clarify anything. But for those of you seeking to gain some lean muscle this holiday season, do not be afraid to eat more, but just make sure you dial in your macros so you are actually minimizing your fat gains along with your muscle gains. Because if you just do the eat anything approach, you will gain muscle. You will get stronger, but you will get fatter at the same time. So if you don't want that to happen, take this approach. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.